Hey guys, Joanne here with Newegg TV. I'm here to do an overview on this Cooler Master Cosmos SE full tower computer case. And it is more of a mid-tower design, as the largest motherboard that it fits is an ATX. And also sometimes it is called the Cosmos Mini by some. And one more thing, in comparison to the Cosmos 2, it is a little more than 5 inches shorter. So let's get started. Here's a 360 look of the case. As you can tell, it follows the classic race supercar design that the Cosmos series follows. And this case is a steel body with some plastic construction on the top as well as at the front. And it measures 10.4 inches wide, 22.4 inches tall, and 20.6 inches deep. Up at the front, there is a strip of LED, and you get 3 5.25-inch drive bays, easily removable, just like this. I'm going to take out all of them so you can get a look at the space inside drive bays as well as the included fans. So let's remove this piece too, also easy to take off. And the fans you get included with the case, 2 120mm blue LED fans, or you have the option of installing a 140mm fan. But let's get to the fun part, which is the radiators. You can install a radiator of up to 360mm long in the front. And I'll show you a more in-depth, explanation a little later on when I remove some of the parts. You could also install a radiator of 240mm or 280mm. Now, let's move on to the other side. Oh, since we're here, I want to go over the drive cage. You get a fourth drive cage on the bottom here. This is different from the 3 drive cages up here, which I will show you later. So you get 2 3.5-inch drives down here and 4 2.5-inch drives. But we'll take a look in just a bit. On this side, you get a large window to look into most of your internal components. And on the rear, you get a pre-installed 120mm fan, a knockout for your input-output shield for your motherboard. Let's say 2, 4, 6, 7 expansion slots. And over here, you get I believe it's kind of like a storm guard. It's like a vertical expansion slot, but they have these holes here you can route your cables through to keep your mouse or your keyboard secure. And below that is a bottom power supply mount. And as you can see, the mount pops out a bit, so you can install longer power supplies. On the bottom here is a removable dust filter. But let's move around to this side, and you get a pop-out design, but the pop-out shape also helps give you some more cable management room. And one last thing, there's also a dust filter in the front. At the top of the case, you get these solid aluminum handrails, so it's really easy to lug around. It's close to 24 pounds, so it's very light, easy for me to pick up, put it on the table, and you could take it on the go to LAN parties, no problem. And it's like the rails that are on the Cosmos 2 that I overviewed, I feel like many years ago, but I'm sure it wasn't that long ago. And at the top, you get some mesh ventilation for where the fans and possible radiator will go if you decide to install one. And it's very easy to take off this top piece. Just grab this end here and just slide it out. So here it is. Inside there is a pre-installed 140mm fan. However, you get the option to install 2 120s, 2 140s, or radiators that are 140mm, 240mm, or 280mm long. Now, moving on to the buttons and ports. Over here we have the power button and the LED strip around it, reset button, and this is the LED on-off for the front 2 120mm blue LED fans. Now moving on to this edge, you get 2 USB 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.0 ports, and your headphone and microphone jacks. Moving right along to the bottom, You get another set of aluminum rails here, as well as rubber padding, so it helps reduce the vibration. And you get honeycomb ventilation for where your drive cages are, as well as where your power supply sits. And I've already removed the 2 dust filters earlier, so that's why these spots are empty. So let's take a look at the right side of the case first. Panel slides right off very easily. Inside, you get a large cutout for your aftermarket heatsink, and as you can tell, the edges are rolled, so you can avoid cutting your hands up while you are trying to install components. And up here is your connector, is a 3-pin connector, as well as Molex with pass-through for the top 140 millimeter fan. And as you can see, you get plenty of tie-down points everywhere, as well as rubber grommets and holes to thread your cables through. And here's a look at the drive cages, but I would rather talk about it when we get to the interior, so I could take out the drive sled and show you how you installed the drives. So one more thing on this side is that you get 2 additional 2.5-inch drive mounts up top and on the bottom, and you get some space between the motherboard tray and the side panel. Let's go over the accessories before moving on to the interior. So here is the user's guide, very useful. I looked at it earlier so I could disassemble the drive cages, as well as figure out how to install the 360 millimeter radiator up at the front. Here are a list of the 8 steps. You can look at it in more detail once you have the manual yourself. Now, in this brown box, there are some very important accessories. Mainly these 2 brackets. You will need these in order to finish installing the 360 radiator up at the front. These go in front of the fans. I'll show you how that works in just a little bit. Now in this bag are the rest of your mounting hardware. Mounting screws. Whoop, I dropped some cable ties, but you get cable ties, motherboard speaker, your standoffs, fan screws, power supply screws, and all of those other mounting screws. And here are some rubber pads for the drive cage fan mount, and a lock for the case. Finally, for the interior. One thing I did forget to mention earlier is that you get these rubber grommets for routing your cables, as well as your water cooling tubes through. And you could also install a 120 millimeter radiator in the back if you would so please. All right, so let's take off this windowed side panel and take a closer look inside. So there's your 120 millimeter rear exhaust fan, 3-pin connector into this header, as well as Molex with pass-through. If you are using that, take a quick look at the top fan right there. And they've included a couple motherboard standoffs on there for you. I'm going to tip this, and they've included these rubber pad strips here for where your power supply sits, so it helps reduce the vibration, therefore reducing noise. And here are the 3-pin connectors for your 2 front LED fans, as well as Molex with pass-through. Lots of options here for you. So let's take a look at the front panel connector, shall we? All right, here is the Molex power to power the case LEDs and all that good stuff. 20-pin USB 3.0 header. And I believe this is your audio, yes. Your audio connectors. And this is your USB 2.0 connector. And of course your power reset and LED plugs. Moving on to the right side. Over here is your 5¼ inch drive bays, and below that your, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 drive mounts. You get an additional 2 here. Let me just take out one of these plastic drive sleds here for you. You can include, so total you can install 8 3.5 inch drives or 16 2.5 inch drives. One on the top, one on the bottom. See these clips here, screw them in on the side. And Let me just replace this. And then with the additional two 2.5-inch drive mounts, you get a total of 18 2.5-inch drive mounts, and that's a lot of SSDs, people. You get 4 total drive cages. This is how they're separated. One chunk here, one chunk, and the cage on the bottom. And these are fully modular. That means you can take off all the pieces of the hard drive cage. So the first cage, you'll take off this piece here and another piece here, and so on and so forth for the following ones. Now for the bottom one, actually, you know what? I'm going to flip this case on to the bottom so I can show you. You remove these 4 screws here in order to slide out the bottom cage. So let's write this again. Using the handle is very helpful. To remove these hard drive cages, first take out these drive sleds. So I'm just going to remove the top one to show you how it works. You'll want to remove these screws here to take off all of these drive cages. And you can also mount 2 120mm fans on the side of the cages. So let's use a screwdriver and just start removing these 2 screws here. And there are another 2 screws on the other side, so just bear with me. I'm gonna flip this around. And I'm just going to go into how to install the 360 radiator up. Oops, oh my gosh, dropped it at the front. One more screw. So once you have removed all the drive cages, all of these, you'll want to loosen these screws of the fan. So in order to in order to install the radiator, you'll want to remove these fans. But I'm not going to remove the entire fan because I just want to show you how to take out the drive cages and how it works. And you'll want to remove this, oh my gosh, oops, it fell. You'll want to remove this front piece as well, very easy to take off. So here's a look at what it looks like now. So the pieces come out like this. And these 3 drive cages can be rotated 90 degrees. That means you can put it in this way if you would like. Of course, it's not going to stay because I'm not going to screw it back in, then screw the screws into here, and then place the other piece, of course, on the opposite side. So now you know how to remove the drive cages. Now to install the radiator, you'll have to take out all the sleds, take off the drive cages, then put connect the fans to the radiators and then install it up here at the front. And then once you have installed that, you take a bracket here and you match up the holes. The fans should be higher, so the holes are right here. And then it will go over the fan like this. And there are screws that secure this piece onto the fan, and then the bracket onto the sides of the case. And that's how you do it. This case is compatible with micro ATX, ATX, and mini ITX motherboards. And I want to go over some clearance for graphics card length. If you remove the second and third cage, you'll be able to include a video card of up to 15.5 inches, and the CPU cooler height clearance is 6.8 inches. Here's a side-by-side size comparison of the Cosmos SE and the Cosmos 2 cases. So enjoy. That wraps up this overview on this Cooler Master Cosmos SE full tower computer case. I'm Joanne, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our Newegg YouTube channel. Thanks for watching Newegg TV, and we'll see you next time.